All right, everyone. Hey, appreciate you guys being here today. This is the new project that we've been talking about at Wally Media Group for quite a while. Our first guest of the season is going to be Kent Lucas. A little bit about Kent. Kent's a guy I've known for quite a long time. Kent also had a condition that he was battling that he had for the longest time had no idea what was going on with him. We're going to talk about that today. The issue that he had was called bipolar disorder. There's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of stereotyping associated with it. And we're here to kind of tear those walls of ignorance down and educate some folks on what's actually going on. Ken, how you doing today, brother?
Good, William. What about you?
Man, I'm fantastic. Excited this new project we got started. Excited that you are going to be one of the first guests that we feature on this show. For those, some of the old fans of the show I had called World of Wally, this is the same type of format we're going to be doing. It's going to go from audio to video, though. So if you see a few of my previous guests pop up on here, you'll know I decided to put them on the big screen. So, all right, Ken, let's go ahead and get started, brother. Like I was telling before, you and I have known each other for quite a while. I've known you since you were a young chap. I knew you back when you didn't wear a size 8 fitted hat. You only wore about a 6.5, which was about, well, not that long ago. He's been in the size 8 for about 25 years now. So, all right. That's got nothing to do with the condition that we're going to talk about today, though. So don't think a large head is associated with that, okay? All right. Now that we've moved on past that. Kent, first of all, tell for those listening and viewing today that don't have no idea who Kent Lucas is, give a quick history of who Kent Lucas is before we get into what the topic we're talking about today.
Sure. Like William said, Kent Lucas, born and raised here in Columbia, Mississippi. Known William for as pretty much as long as I can remember. Grown up in church all my life. Had a good childhood, normal childhood. Got 2 kids, lovely wife. Love to spend time with the family and just go enjoy spending time with them, enjoy camping, just pretty much spend time with them as much as I possibly can.
And try not to work because work sucks. So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Kent, when I first heard about this condition you're dealing with, I was a little shocked. Didn't know a whole lot. To be honest with you, I'm one of those bipolar meme guys. You know, I just whatever I saw, I just believed it to be part of that condition. And after sitting and having what was going to be a 15 or 20-minute conversation with you at the local restaurant one day, and I was just getting a little fact finding, ended up being about 2 hours, and I had a notebook full of information, and I said, this story has to be told. And that's why we're sitting here today. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, okay? Tell our viewers that moment when you knew I've got a problem or I've got an issue, I've got a condition, and I've got to get help for it. Tell everybody when you knew for a fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what you know that moment. Tell them, share that moment with them.
Well, so you know pretty well that for most of that time, I didn't think that I had a problem. Everybody else was telling me that I was a problem, but I felt great. The point that I knew something was wrong was the moment before my 3rd stay at Pine Grove at the mental hospital. I was having a conversation with my boss at the time. That was my first attempt at going back to work after all this had started. I was deep in a manic episode. This was all one big manic episode. Was very delusional. My bipolar diagnosis is bipolar 1 with psychotic features. So it's a lot of schizophrenic symptoms. The one thing that he said to me, and I was in his office, and it was probably a very surreal conversation with him, probably made him very uncomfortable. It was comfortable for me because, again, I felt great. He said, "Do you trust me?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, you can't function like this. And it's like he was staring a hole right through me. Said, you can't function like this. So that kind of got through to me a little bit. No matter how good I felt or how much I thought that I was functioning at a higher level, I couldn't sustain it. It just wasn't healthy. So I was sent home. Really, I couldn't be trusted to go in my truck anywhere. So Lindsay had to come pick me up from work. And so we went to my psychiatrist in Gulfport that day. And that led to the third and final stay at Pine Grove. And
which is a mental health facility in
Yep.
Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which is about 30 miles from the location where he's talking about here. So,
yep. That was when it kind of all turned around. And that was the first time I had been put on certain medication. It was lithium at the time, the oldest mood stabilizer drug. I believe it's the oldest mood stabilizer drug that is
Edgar Allan Poe stuff or lithium.
that just worked. It was by far the longest stay, and it was like night and day.
So how long? You said it was your third and final stay. How many days we
I
talking
believe
about?
it was 6 days.
6
It
days.
was 6 days.
What like? What's that 6 days? Like, what happened during those 6 days?
Observation to see how I interacted with other people during that time. A lot of blood tests with that medication to make sure it's not toxic, because it can be toxic in your bloodstream. Just to see my behavioral reactions. Just as long as I didn't make the natives mad in there. Got out, and I knew that then that it was really time to start focusing on getting better, getting in that routine. And the previous 2 times I had, focused on taking more time off of work. And this time I realized that I needed to get right back into work, getting in a routine, and just making the medicines work and making my mind work immediately. And so that's what I did. And at that point in time, it was a struggle. You and I have talked about, now it's not really a struggle. It's just the daily journey, a daily walk. But then it was a struggle figuring all that out.
Okay, you said your third trip to the mental health facility. You said, I also asked you the moment you knew that you had a problem, need to get that we didn't catch that the first 2 trips, like you didn't, like your brain didn't process on the first or the second trip that's was a problem.
Not at all.
You were, everybody else was
the problem.
They were against you. It was a conspiracy.
That was in my head.
Well, but you also said you delusional and psychotic at some point. So that's like the Big Brother syndrome.
Right.
They're watching.
Right.
So the first stay and the second stay, you said the last one was 6 days. What about the first and second stay? What were they like?
The first stay was.
Well, let me ask you a question. Were the first and second stay voluntary?
It was voluntary.
Oh, all 3 of them were voluntary. So they didn't drag you in there.
There's nothing on. It was not voluntary on my part. I was voluntold by my family and friends, which I am thankful for, because I didn't know at the time. I didn't know what was good for me.
Because
I was just not
nothing was wrong
in the mental state that I was in.
Nothing was wrong.
I didn't know what was good for me. I didn't know any better. At that point, I didn't know how to think.
It was just curious. You said on the third and final trip,
right?
Yeah, it only took you 3.
The jury's still out. It can always, something can always happen. But as far as I'm concerned, that's the final. Okay. That's the final trip.
All right. So now that you kind of have your mind wrapped around the disorder that you're having to deal with, the bipolar disorder, and you got knowledge, like you feel like you're not a lot more knowledgeable about it at this point. Can you recall? Can you go like how far back can you recess through your memories that you realize that you had symptoms that were showing, but at that time you didn't have the knowledge to know what they were?
I've had my ups and my downs, plenty of times before. I can pinpoint times where I've had depressive like symptoms. I've had blues. Everybody has bad days. I can't pinpoint a time where I've had mania like symptoms, even with the non psychotic symptoms. So by the very definition of bipolar, with the mania symptoms, that's it really came on right then back in 2016. I can't pinpoint a time. I've always been loud and obnoxious. I've always been easily excited, easily excitable.
I can't argue with you on that. No,
I
can't say no. You're kidding. No.
So it's just. It's just my natural behavior.
You're boisterous. It's the
right.
You're boisterous.
Right. So it's. I don't look at it as. I can't pinpoint a time where now that I know what I know now. Back then, this is 15 years ago. Yeah, that makes sense. I can't. I don't think that's. I don't think that was ever a concern or an issue.
So 2016.
Yep.
How old would you have been in 2016?
30.
30 years old.
31 in June.
You turned 30, and that was the trigger. Not turning
30. Work was the trigger.
Oh, your
workload.
For a fact that your workload's what triggered.
My workload stress level was the trigger. For sure.
I mean, that's what they through clinical, through a clinical approach, they've said your stress levels whatever.
Yeah, stress levels. And they didn't say that work was the issue, but they said for sure was the stress. I was stressed at work, stressed at home, stressed wherever I go, and it wasn't. It was the way I dealt with it.
Right.
It was me that was the issue.
I just don't know how you could be stressed at home. You got an amazing wife and 2 kids.
I sure do.
I tell you
I've
what,
I
don't know how in the world they could have pushed you to that point.
I've got a wonderful support system.
Yeah.
My wife and kids, my extended support system.
Yeah, your job must have been something, man.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't even camp enough to make it better.
It was, yeah.
And y'all camp all the time.
At the time, we had been camping for a few years.
Yeah. So 2016, it just happened. Like flipping on a light switch.
It could have started, at the end of 2015 and just kind of snowballed from there. But at the time, I was staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, working and not taking care of myself, sleeping, not getting enough sleep, probably drinking too much coffee. It was just up all hours of the night and
energy drinks. Energy drink got too.
Yeah, not back then.
Okay. Now?
Yeah.
So energy drinks help against bipolar. Don't say that.
Effect.
Hey, if they do and if they clinically prove it, we need an endorsement on this show for that. So, all right. So, I can't wait any longer. You got to tell now. Look,
the story.
First of all, I want before he says what he's about to say. We do not make light of, we do not make fun of, we do not in any way want to make anybody suffer from any level of mental illness feel weird or strange or an outcast. But he's about to tell a little joke that he told his doctor that I found funny, and a lot of folks will find funny, but he absolutely, it's just off the cuff. He didn't mean anything by it. So
I have a good relationship with my doctor. We share jokes nearly every appointment every month, but I'm a huge wrestling fan. And so I told him, I said, growing up, that I was a fan of the WWE. And now, ironically, as an adult with bipolar disorder, it is now I who must wrestle mania.
Which, for those that have no idea what he's talking about, that is the largest pay-per-view in the history of professional wrestling, WrestleMania, which was created before you were born. I don't know. Yeah, 6 before you were born. Yeah, it's before he was born, like 1987. He has no idea. He probably was I don't know. He'd probably been going for a decade by the time he came along. So anyway, I found, as an old wrestling guy, I found that hilarious. But like I said, we're not making light of any type of mental condition. That was just a funny joke. So, all right. So, a question that I have been super curious about after our initial conversation. Now that you have this awareness about bipolar and everything associated with the condition, do you, I mean, and I don't know how much you've dug into this or checked or whatever, have you found any kind of like a genetic or a family tie to this condition? Like, is there a history of these type of symptoms that go back into your earlier generations, your parents, grandparents, and on back? So
Possibly.
You saw some traits or some characteristics in these people that made you believe possibly.
I do see some possible traits going back in my lineage.
Right.
Probably a bit controversial, but
controversial, which
yeah.
He's never shied away from controversy.
Never wanted to shy away.
Never wanted to shy away from controversy.
Just up a few blocks, a few blocks down the road.
Yeah. That's a story for a whole different episode, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's never been officially, but I think it is probably inherited.
Well, the reason that I ask is because through some digging, research type stuff, after we talked, it sparked a huge interest for me, and I was doing some digging, and I've noticed for as much information as there is about this condition, there's a lot of disinformation too, just a lot of hearsay and unproven facts, and I actually watched an entire YouTube episode where a guy tried to prove that it was schizophrenia is what he actually was talking about. The schizophrenia is a genetic trait that skips 2 generations. So a grandparent would have it and a grandchild would have it. It would actually skip. No, I'm sorry. A great grandparent would have it and a grandchild would have it. That's what it is. That's how far it skips, but it's every 3rd generation.
Wow.
So I don't know.
That's something that's not proven.
That's what I'm saying. That guy not only made a whole episode on it, it had like 600,000 views. So 600 individuals spent time being essentially disinformed about the topic that they were, interested in. And that's why anything we put out with you,
right?
It's your story.
Right.
I'm not going to dispute anything you say because it's your story.
Right.
But we also want to make sure that we are factual with what we're providing.
Yeah.
So.
Some say it's genetic. Some say it's environmental. I will say that
it's that dye in the red Kool-Aid, huh?
That's right.
And then red hot dogs. They warned us about them red hot dogs.
MSG and the gluten. It's everywhere, man.
We're gonna talk about. It's funny that we're talking about like dietary stuff. That's gonna come up in the second part of this conversation in part 2 because that's one of the main topics I want to discuss. So
I will say that a big part of mania is one of the big parts of mania is agitation and just for lack of a better term, just being angry.
I thought you were talking about the nervous leg. I have the nervous leg too.
Oh yeah,
the tapping leg.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Fidget. My grandma used to say, "Quit the fidget."
Quit the fidgeting.
I didn't know they was gonna make the little spinny thing later. I could have made a fortune on that. So
fidget spinner.
Yeah, fidget spinner. Does that help or not? I'm just curious. Does that not? Okay.
No.
I knew it was supposed to help with like ADHD or something. But I don't know.
No effect.
No effect at all. All right, so you think there's a possibility of a genetic type?
I think there's a possibility because where I was going with that.
The way you said that though, you make me feel as if it was like not just like one person in your past that you like. The look you just gave me that came across on the camera was that there might have been some multiple individuals within you. No,
just one.
Just on one side.
Yeah, just on one side. Now, where I was going with that was a big part of mania is just being easily agitated, and the press speech, just the racing thoughts and the pressured speech. the yelling and the just lack of control, and that's a big part of it. I mean, like I said, I had a normal childhood, but those are things that I dealt with. Um, and it's very real. I can't say for sure that it's a genetic thing or it's an environmental thing, but it sure points to it.
I just hope it's not stuff like drinking well water from a hose, because I did a lot of that.
I did a lot of that too.
A lot of lead in that water, they
Yeah.
said. So
Yeah.
all right. So now that we've kind of covered that.
What's your show rated? Is it rated PG?
Well, I don't mean you say anything you want. I mean YouTube will cut it out. Actually, we try to keep it very family friendly. But I mean, with a topic like this, though, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, with some of the things that you said that you were going through before they diagnosed you and before they helped you with pharmaceuticals and therapy and everything else, I'm pretty sure you probably had some days that you probably said and did some things that you still regret to this day.
Yeah.
Because you said them. I can only assume that when your level of mania was amped up to the roof, you were saying and doing things to people that you love dearly, but
and that I hurt their feelings,
that
I made them mad,
and they just kept. And what's so crazy? They just kept supporting you.
Yeah.
Because they knew you were an idiot, and they just not an idiot. Now I didn't mean to say he's always an idiot, but
exactly.
I resemble that. He's a very boisterous individual. Also, there's that word again, boisterous.
But to say, the PG, the butthole gene can pass.
Nice. That's a nice
through generations.
I understand.
You understand?
I understand.
So, but I mean, I did say some hurtful things to people. I did some very cringeworthy stuff, and even when it pops up into my head, I'm like, man, that was so stupid of me to say something like that. That was idiotic of me for me to think that.
Let me ask a question, because that raises a question that just popped into my brain, and I'm old and I had to ask you now before I forget it. Because I catch myself doing this sometimes. I've always been accused of not having a filter. Like, if I think it, I say it. But the Lord tells me, if it's on your mind, you might as well speak it, because He knows the intent of my heart. So, does this condition just kind of shut your, like when you're in the high or the low, does it just shut your filter off?
I can kind of see that, especially on the mania side. I mean, it's just a nonstop.
Terrified. I need to go to the doctor. Because I'm doing a lot of what you're saying right now, and it scared me at this point. So
I mean, just a stream of consciousness, just one thought after another.
Really?
Yeah. Just
no way.
I mean, that's just one thing. I mean, that was just my experience. I'm not a medical professional, so
that's true. You're not Dr. Kent Lucas, although I tried to announce you as Dr. Kent Lucas earlier.
Yeah.
Because we're only going to provide facts, correct?
All the facts. All the facts.
That's right. We're not making up anything associated with your story.
Not everybody's journey is the same.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Every condition, the mild or the intensity of the level of it. Yeah. Right. All right. So we have tippy-toed around what I'm about to cover with you next. So we might as well cover it now, because if you share during this question I have for you, if you share the story that I've heard from, including you, I've heard a version of this story from, I think, 4 people. I think it's 4 people. And I could not, that's why I had to talk to you. When I heard this story, I had to talk to you. I said, I got to hear the story from the horse's mouth. And it was extremely close to what they were telling me too. Matter of fact, yours got me a little uneasy.
Was it better?
Your version was pretty intense, because this crazy thing is how much you actually were able to recall.
Yeah.
And, because I thought, from the way it was explained to me, you were kind of, I guess wild-eyed would be the best way to explain it. I mean, you were kind of out there. Old folks back in the day, like them old church meetings, would have said you was possessed. You was demon possessed. Yeah. So anyway, that's why it kind of shocked me the way you were able to recall it. So anyway, let's get to it. Let's don't make them wait any longer. So, all right. So if you can, try to explain to me what a day of, because we've talked about highs and lows, extreme highs, extreme lows. Explain to me what a day of like an extreme high is with this condition and what a day of an extreme low would be that you've experienced that you can recall before the diagnosis and treatment. You still have, that's something we need to be clear about. People still have highs and lows. The medicine that you're now taking and the treatment you've received to this point just helps you regulate it.
Still have good days and bad days. Just takes days.
So let's I'll let you choose which one we want to do first. You want to talk about the highest highs or the lowest lows?
Well, when do you want the story of
let's do
when do you want that?
I'll tell you what,
that's separate. That's a separate deal. That was after diagnosis.
Let's do a high and a low.
Okay.
Let's do a high and a low, and then we'll let you share the story, the post-treatment story.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see what we got here, because I can't imagine pre-diagnosis what a high and a low was if the story I heard was post-treatment. So, which now let me ask you a question. When you say post-treatment, are we talking about, did they start your treatment on the first and second journey that you made to the mental health facility, or just the third?
Started on the first stay.
So what kind of time frame are we talking about? Visit 1, visit 2, visit 3? Like how much time?
It was almost a month.
Those
it was almost a month between my first and second stay, because it was April, May, and June were the 3 stays. They were within those of 2016.
2016 we're talking about.
They were within those months, but it may not have been exactly a month between those.
I understand.
It may have been
roughly 90 or so days, 100 days.
It was a 6-week sabbatical that I had taken off of work, but that was where they were all spread out.
So give me an example. This is pre-diagnosis. Give me an example of a high, like a day of super high.
Super high. I can pinpoint the day. Is when it was just a euphoria is the word I'm thinking of.
Okay.
It's
using them big college words today.
College words.
Boisterous, euphoric.
Associate's degree.
That's a 2-year degree word right there.
That's all I have.
Go ahead,
that's all I had to work.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off at euphoric. Go ahead.
No, and it was not a care in the world. Again, at the time, I didn't know what it was, but it was one of those delusional things where, man, it was like all of this. I had all this secret knowledge about the universe, and we hadn't talked about this part yet.
Secret knowledge.
I had all this secret knowledge about the universe, and it was, I talked about growing up in church and everything, and schizophrenic and psychotic patients, if they're spiritual or not, whatever religion they are, they kind of becomes more intense. And so it was a very spiritual thing for me. I was like, man, I figured out all this religious stuff and everything. And it was very a religious journey for
hold
me.
On 1 second. So you were a spiritual militant.
It was like a medicine man, like a spiritual medicine man.
So you were a weaponized believer.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Exactly.
So you were one of those guys.
Yeah. It was
I bet you were something to deal with.
It was intense. It was like very overzealous kind of thing. And I was on a mission to
from God
to evangelize everybody.
I know. Which is what we're told to do as believers.
Right. And that was the exact state of mind that I was in. And this was the day that I had a conversation with my boss outside of the office. And man, I had a solution for all the world's problems. I knew how to fix everything. And I see the way you're reacting right now. You're like,
I'm pretty sure
we have not talked about this.
I'm pretty sure he was looking at you the same way.
Yeah, he was.
Because I'm telling you, that sounds a little glazed over to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and he finally said, I think I know what's going on here, and I think I know where this is going to go. He said, why don't you take the next few days off of work and and call me after that. Well, that was on a Thursday or Friday.
Mm-hmm.
By Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
that was my first day. That was when I went to Pine Grove.
Okay.
For the first time.
Okay.
And that was probably the days leading up to that.
Mm-hmm.
It just escalated from there. And I remember saying these exact words to my wife at the time, and the logic behind this in my head made sense, but coming out, it made me say that I was God. But the words that I used were, me and God are the same person.
Mm.
At the time, I don't know what my thinking was in saying that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just the level of delusion that
Mm-hmm.
I was under. And I'm saying all this matter of factly because, and this is what I cringe, the kind of
Well, I
stuff
mean,
that I
that's
cringe
what,
at.
but I'm just saying that's a true life
Yeah.
account of what happened there.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of what this condition
Yeah.
can do to you.
Yeah. And this is not everybody's
So it continued.
experience.
So it wasn't a high, like a mountaintop valley experience that took you to treatment. It was a mountaintop
beyond
the clouds,
stratosphere. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And it was, so.
And this happened within 48 hours.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you said you checked yourself in on a Sunday.
And this was, and it kind of went from there. And I don't really remember where it went from there. We had a weekend where me and the family, we went and saw a movie. We went grocery shopping, and then I remember pulling in at my in-laws' house, and I was just. This was kind of similar to the story what I'm about to tell.
We had a precursor.
This was a precursor.
Well, prequel to what this story I heard.
So
okay,
this was
a little dress rehearsal.
This was just me walking around, just hollering, talking completely nonsensical, talking in circles, not listening to anybody, constantly escalating, and just agitating everyone around me. And so finally, this was late at night or early in the morning. I think I just got exhausted, just got tired.
Mm-hmm.
And finally they took me to Forest General emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
And this was Sunday night, Saturday night or something. I lost track of the days, but I can tell you where I left my phone. I can tell you where I left my wallet. I can tell you where I walked to and from, where I took my boots off. I remember taking a ride. I can tell you the roads that we took.
Oh, you rode with somebody.
I rode with somebody. I did not drive.
I said you didn't just jump the vehicle and take off.
I did not drive.
Okay.
And this was just, my senses were just so heightened during that mania.
Mm-hmm.
You can remember everything. I remember taking a huge stone step that was at our house, and just in one motion, just flipping it over. And back, just fast forward, after I'd gotten out of the hospital, I tried to move it back to where it was in a normal position. Couldn't budget. That's how wound up that I was. So backing up, they had finally gotten me to go to Forest General emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, that's when they took me to Pine Grove. Took me in the back of a Forest General police car. So It was not a involuntary. It wasn't an involuntary court order.
Right, escort. It's just an escort.
Right, just
for your own safety situation.
For all my safety.
Right.
So that was one of the voluntold episodes. That was probably a 3 to 5 day.
So that's a high mania run wild.
It was high mania, and at that time I was feeling good. Everybody else was the problem. I was hollering at everybody, get away from me.
So your lowest low, I'm assuming, has to go as far in the other direction.
Lowest low is from that compared to that. Lowest low is definitely post treatment.
Okay.
Definitely post treatment. Before diagnosis, lowest low is, thinking that this is probably well before that, because like I said, months before that, looking back, I can see the mania symptoms building up.
Mm-hmm.
Lowest low, is mild compared to that kind of a high. It's a bad day compared to, somebody, what else somebody might have, maybe like a regular worry about, I got stress at work, money stress,
right.
Not prepared for something, got too much to do and not going to get it done, that sort of thing. Or that nobody's listening to what I'm saying. Nobody's doing what I'm telling them to do. Kids aren't doing what I'm telling them to do. Everybody thinks I'm stupid.
Which is generally what everybody goes through.
Yeah.
But with your condition, it just heightens it in both directions.
Yeah.
So.
But that's
So the lows were mild, but I'm telling you, your mania episodes are impressive. I hate to say it in such a way, but I can see where friends and family would be, genuinely concerned. There's got to be something going on here, and you were just oblivious to it.
Yep.
Like you're like, ain't nothing wrong with me, man.
This is my new normal.
I got it going on, man. Yeah. Me and God are the same person.
Yeah. I said those exact words.
That's oof.
Yeah. It hurts me to even admit that.
Well, but
it's the truth.
It's confession. You got to confess it. Yeah. And you and I both being believers, we understand that God knows there's something going on inside of you, chemical imbalance, whatever you want to call it. And he understands that. And I'm assuming at this point you've asked forgiveness for all your past actions, even though technically you couldn't control most of what was going on.
Right.
Because in your own mind, you thought everything was fine.
Right. Right. And in my mind then, I would have never thought that I was equating myself or thinking that I was God, but I can't tell you what my state of mind was at the time, why I said that.
So roughly within 100 days, you make 3 trips to the mental health facility in Hattiesburg, Pine Grove, whatever it's called, Pine Grove.
Pine Grove. Yep.
Yeah. You're not healed or whatever, but after the 3rd one, you feel like progress is made. You come home.
They
got you on some medication. Yeah. They don't, you talk to counselor, psychiatrist, whatever. Psychologist, I don't know which one did
psychiatrist. At the time I was seeing a therapist, licensed psychologist. But I was good enough to
function
to at least function
according to them. You were functioning
somewhat. I mean, the problem is I probably should have stayed in a facility for a longer time.
Right.
But the stays at Pine Grove are short, which is fine.
Right.
They do a lot of good there. They did a lot of good for me. But at the time, the way my doctor says it is that we're doing this by the book, but your mind and your body haven't read the book yet. So it just took some time took some time to figure out.
That's pretty quotable. I should write that down.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time, but I didn't know. I don't say it that way. So the story I heard that piqued my interest to the point that I felt like, matter of fact, after hearing what you're about to tell us for the, I think, third time, that very day I reached out to you. So that's how intrigued I was.
Oh, when you heard the story.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
I was so intrigued at this point. I said, I've got to hear this from the horse's mouth. So you said this is after your third visit.
No, after the first visit.
After the first visit.
This story led up to the second visit.
Which sent you to for the second trip to Pine Grove.
Yes.
All right. Now, where was this? This was a manic episode, also. I guess technically, according to the book.
This was a manic episode,
right,
which was really a part of the one big manic episode that lasted.
So you truly
3 months.
So you truly don't know if it was just one never-ending, like the never-ending story.
It was just one never-ending manic episode.
So, why don't you share with the viewers exactly what happened the night that mandated a second trip?
I'm trying to think of how it started, but
it started off very simply, I believe.
Tell me how it started, because I can tell you where it got interesting.
It was an interaction, another interaction at your, I think it was at your in-laws. Yeah, y'all had gone over to the in-laws for something. Something was either said or done that I was told was like a light switch. It triggered your reaction. And then that's what, like it went off the rails pretty quickly, according to the story. The version I was told. I mean, people were even called in.
Oh yeah,
to help.
There was like, a lot of people.
You went MIA. Like, I mean, they were talking about like law enforcement assistance and all that kind of stuff. It actually started at your house, but I think it spilled over to your in-laws' house.
It started at my house, and it started with me being, again, easily agitated, and at Lindsay, and she wasn't doing anything.
Right.
It was me.
Right.
That was the problem. And we had gotten in an argument, and I just walked out of the house, and I just kept walking. And the problem is, I didn't tell anybody where I was going.
Yeah, that's what it was. Nobody knew where you were.
Nobody knew where I was going. So at the time, we were still at our house on our side of the road.
Right.
We lived across the road from the in-laws.
Right.
So I'd walked all the way to the back of the property, and I had called my dad at the time, and I can remember that conversation, and I can only picture how that conversation.
Yeah, I have not heard his version of the story. His would probably be pretty.
I can only imagine what he thought of how my state of mind was then, because I was, again, talking outside of my head then. And so I can remember looking back up the hill, and I saw where Lindsay had walked to find me. And so I eventually made my way back up the hill. And so this is the time that I flipped the stone step up and over. So I remember that.
You told that story earlier, and I thought that's where you were headed, but
I know
all of it runs together. Yeah.
These times run together because it's so similar.
Right.
And so this was the time that I kicked the bucket. I literally kicked the bucket.
Yes.
There was
what are you talking about? Yes, you literally did.
I literally kicked the bucket. It was a little plastic bucket that I kicked and destroyed. I hit some tin with a bat and scared the kids.
Yes. It's all coming back to you now.
This is and the more I talk about it, the more I remember. And I talk about it and laugh about it now, but it's very scary for everyone, including my kids. And so both of these times, somebody took the kids away,
right?
Took the girls away, because at the time, they're 5 and 7.
Yeah,
at the time
they were really young then.
And so, this is just once again, me just pacing back and forth, yelling, not listening to anybody. And so I make my way over to my in-laws' house.
Right.
And I go in the woods behind their house. This is the part where I wanted to start, where it gets interesting.
This is it got really interesting when you went behind your in-laws' house.
And at some point,
that's where some witnesses were involved. They were coming to try to help find you.
That's where people start getting called. That's where the witnesses start getting called to help come find.
Well, let me back up. Some volunteers were coming to try to locate you.
Yeah,
they happened to witness the situation. Matter of fact, it was pretty nerve-wracking for a couple of them that were there, because I think they kind of walked in blind, had no idea what was going on. They didn't know any of the backstory.
So that's right. I had disappeared into the woods.
Right.
Fully clothed.
Correct. I was wondering if you was going to bring that up.
Fully clothed.
He was fully clothed.
At that point, so while I was in the woods, volunteers were called to come find me.
Right.
While I was in the woods, some of those volunteers saw me partially clothed.
Correct. Correct.
I believe that I was only shirtless, but other people say that I was down to my boxers, but I don't believe.
I've heard both versions. I was going to ask.
I was only shirtless. I still had my shoes on, but this was another time that I was delusional. I can only explain it that I was stomping around in the woods like a caveman could do, and very agitated.
One version I heard was you were almost like a bull.
Yeah,
like you were like wanting to. I think they said they felt like you wanted to charge them like a bull.
I could see
that was that's where the term possession came up too. I had somebody that had witnessed a portion of it that said that they felt as if you were possessed.
I can see that.
So I tell you, man, it was, like I said, I heard 2 or 3 versions. I heard your version though. Your version kind of ties everything together.
Puts all the pieces.
It puts
together.
a bow on it, because I'd heard different. But you know how if you tell a story and there's 30 people in a circle, by the time it gets to the last person, it's not the same story. You know how that is. So
I had made my way back over to my house, and then back over to the in-laws' house. At one point, I was sitting on the diving board at my in-laws' house, and I heard somebody say, "Don't jump in the pool." Well, what am I going to do in that? So I dive in the pool, and then in my head, this is another one of the spiritual things, was like, I was equating it to, baptizing myself in the water. And this was a serious thing. This was like
some John the Baptist
really
stuff. So.
Right. And my dad was on the phone with my brother at the time. And, I didn't want to hear from anybody. At that time, I didn't want to get in a car with anybody.
Right.
I remember and this was another time where I finally got worn down enough where I remember that what convinced me to listen and to go was somebody said, I know what you mean. I know how you feel, because you said, "Bring me Sophie." Because I kept saying over and over, "Bring me my kids. I just want to see my kids. I just want to see my girls, and bring me Sophie." And when they said that, they said, "Bring me Sophie." And I said, "That because you said, bring me Sophie." For some reason, that just took it out of me, and so that kind of started the process of me getting in the truck and going back to Forest General emergency room. Now I see your eyebrows are raising. So, and on the way, this is a funny story that me and my wife still laugh about.
Funny story. Okay.
This is a funny story.
This might be a crazy way to end this episode. Okay.
Serious back to funny. Somebody had cooked some chicken strips, and they evermore burnt the mess out of them chicken strips. But on the way to Forest General in the truck, I was like, "Man, these are some delicious chicken strips. These are so good." And me and my wife still laugh about this to this day. And whenever I say that something's so good that she's cooked, she's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, yeah. Because she's thinking you're having another episode. So.
Yeah.
Well, Kent, brother, I can't think of a better way to end this episode. As you'll see on some of the social media stuff we got going on for our viewers, this will be a 3-part episode. We took you through kind of the pre-diagnosis, pre-treatment journey of Kent Lucas. On the next episode, we're going to talk about finding it, the diagnosis, the treatment, the medication, how things are going now. And then on the third and final installment, we're going to bring in a family member, this lovely lady named Lindsay that has put up with a lot from this guy. And she's going to share what it was like through her eyes, the entire journey, if she can hold up. That's what we're worried about, if she can hold up through it all. But I think she will, because she's a real trooper. So for guys, we appreciate y'all being here today. Can't thank Ken enough for being here. Kent's going to be here for one more episode, and then I'm going to banish him for the last one because he can't be here because she can't concentrate on telling the story because he'll be making faces at her and all that kind of stuff. So we don't need to do any of that. We need her to be focused so she can tell his story through her eyes. So we'll see you guys later. Can't thank you enough for tuning in for this episode. And don't forget, guys, please like, share, and subscribe this episode and all the other episodes. If you saw if something we got going on here that you really like I said, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of this amazing content. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all have a great day.